Hey, it's Jay. Today we're going to be talking about the Sketch tab in Autodesk Inventor.
Okay, so Sketch tab. First thing you're going to need to know to deal with sketches is how to actually start a sketch. And your options are, it's just very intuitively the Start 2D Sketch button. This is found in either the Sketch tab or the 3D Model tab. And I like to use the Sketch tab. And notice here that they're all the way to the left when we're in a part file or a .ipt. But if we go to an assembly or a .iam, which these are third and fourth from the left. So don't freak out if you click on either assemble or design, there's no Start 2D Sketch button. Okay. So then if we actually go to start our sketch, you just click up here and you'll notice it gives me a bunch of options for planes. You can kind of just pick one. It's fairly irrelevant which one you actually end up using, but just try and pick one that's reasonable. And you'll also notice you can do sketches on certain faces of other parts. So let's use some stuff aligned with planes. But like if I wanted to do a sketch on the side of this, I could just by going Start 2D Sketch, and I'm in the assembly, so it doesn't give me planes actually. And I can just click that, and then once it loads and it stops freaking out, I can zoom out, zoom back in, and it'll line me up. Okay, so if I just exit that, we can go back to our main thing. Okay, so you click that. You'll notice there's a drop down here. All that does is it allows you to start a 3D sketch, which are kind of weird, and we aren't going over. So, yeah. Okay, so you notice there's a lot of options here. We're going to go over them all. And yeah. So we're going to start at the left, and we have the Create subdivision, which has a whole bunch of tools. This should actually be the line tool. First thing you're going to notice is every one of these has a drop down, and that changes a bunch of things. So line here has a drop down for basically splines as well, and curves. So line is what you're probably going to use most often, and it's just you click a point and you click a point, and now there's a line there. It's pretty intuitive. That is how line works. But in addition to line, we have a whole, let's get rid of that. We have a whole drop down here that allows you to change a bunch of things. So this is the curve you're probably going to use more. It just creates a curve that's nice, smooth and continuous curve through as many points and vertices as you want. That's how that works. What happened? I went too far back. Okay, and that's how that one works. I'll get back to there. Oh, cool. I don't know. Let's just let this figure itself out. Okay, it figured itself out. Now we're going back. Okay, my computer's kind of slow sometimes when I'm trying to record and do CAD, so it freaks out. Okay, then next to this, okay, we also have equation curve and bridge curve. Equation curve, you give an equation of generated curve, and bridge curve will create a smooth line between two pre-existing curves. Next up, we have circle, which very intuitively allows you to create a circle. Now there's drop down here too. Basically, this is just different ways to create a circle, and we also have ellipse for in case you don't want to be a perfect circle. So that's how that works. You can make a circle just by going, here's my first point, and here's the radius, and now there's a circle. And then ellipse is very similar. You just give it the first radius, and then here's the second radius. And then that's all there is to that one. Circle is pretty straightforward. Next we have arc, which is just 3 different ways to create an arc. I'm quite partial to 3-point arc, which just you pick a start point and an end point, and then you choose the curvature. And that's pretty much how that works. But there's also tangent, which just you give it the start point is the end point of something else. And we have arc center point, which just you define it instead of defining it by a bit on in the. It's kind of weird. You saw how I did some weird things. Basically, this starts with center point, and then you just choose your degrees. This is always going to be perfectly circular as opposed to the other one, which will be as well, but you can control the degrees more easily here versus the radius. Next up is polygon, which just not polygon, it should be a rectangle. I was just playing with this. Basically, you can use this to create rectangles in a whole bunch of different ways, as you can see here. and slots as well as polygons. So basically rectangles, you just click on wherever, and then now there's a rectangle there. You can also use a whole bunch of different ways to do very much the same thing. So slots are the next thing that you might want to deal with at some point. These are just, if you hover over them, it kind of explains how it works. Basically, it just allows you to create a nice little cutout that is basically a rectangle with rounded edges. So that's how that works. And Polygon works like a polygon tool and allows you to create polygon with however many sides you want. So that's how that works. Then we also have, this should be Phillip, but it's not because I was playing with things. Basically, what this allows you to do is round the edges of something. So if I go ahead and make a rectangle here, I can click Phillip, and I go to this corner, and you have to make, this is the radius of the circle it would form. So this is an 1/8 inch radius, so I'm going to have a much more removed than if it was like, or much less removed than if it was a 1/4 inch, as you can see here. But if it was much less than that, I move less. Basically, all it does is round the corners of something. It makes it look nice and just nice. Then this is chamfer, which it does a very similar thing, except you have more options. Basically, you can make it perfect, like a 45, 45, 90 triangle. You can make it, you can assess how far you want the sides to be, or you can give it one side and an angle. Just feel free to play around with that one. Pretty much how that works. Text does exactly what you think it does. You can also use geometry text, which will just wrap text along some feature, such as a circle or a rectangle. You also have point, which just allows you to put a point somewhere. It's useful for when you have to find some point that you need and you just want a point there, not a whole bunch of meetings of lines. So you can just stick it there and then keep going and delete whatever you used to do it. It's kind of useful for finishing constructions. Okay, then after this we have project geometry, which is useful for when you're sketching over something, like on a part. You saw how I was on the face of something. Okay, so like here, if I start a 2D sketch and go, what? Please explain. Oh wait, I was already selected. If I start a 2D sketch here, and you can see I have, like I can hover over the circle. But then if I go to project the geometry of the circle, now that you can see I have the center point as well. So that circle is a part of my sketch. That's pretty fancy. And more useful in assemblies than parts, but still. We have modify. It allows you to like move geometry that's already in place. I hit Control Z. Don't like it very much. I prefer to just remove it and replace it, but you do you. They're all pretty intuitive how they work. Okay, next up is the pattern subdivision, which I very much like. Basically, what it'll allow you to do is, hang on, let me delete a bunch of stuff. What it'll allow you to do, is make a pattern. So start with mirror, because it does exactly what you think it does. So like if I go ahead and I be like, yep, I want to mirror this and this, and then I select the axis I want to mirror it over, then I apply it. Now it's been mirrored over that axis. So it's exactly what you think it does. It's that simple. But if I go to undo that. So next are rectangular and circular, which are a little bit weirder, but still pretty easy. So rectangular, actually hang on, I need to do something else first. So if I make a little tiny circle and I want a bunch of them along this side, along this for some reason. Okay, cool, we got a tiny circle. Now I could, and I want them going all the way up that. I could, I guess, make a bunch of them and do it all the way up, or I could use the the rectangular pattern. And I see how I can select geometry, and I selected the wrong thing. That's great. I select geometry, and we select this here. Gotta click on it. And we select this circle, and then I select direction 1, and I select this axis. And then I'm like, okay, I want them appearing every 0.01 inches, and I want 50 of them. You would usually do some math just to make sure it goes all the way down the line, but no farther. I'm not doing that right now. And now there's, I went the wrong way too. It'll do that sometimes. And now there's 50 of those circles spaced every 0.01 inches. That's how that works. Circular pattern works a very similar way, except it just works along a circle. So if I go ahead and I be like, yep, here's a circle. There's a circle there now. And now there's another tinier circle right there. Cool, cool. And then I go circular pattern with it. I can select that as my geometry. And then you select this. You select as what you want to rotate around. And you can be like, no, I want this only to rotate around 270 degrees in my circle. And you don't do spacing for this one. You just say how many you want. And I'm like, I want 18. And then it does that. This is useful for gears, like adding teeth all the way around the circle without doing the whole thing. If you're, for some reason, sketching teeth. Gears. There are much easier ways to do that. That's pattern. And then we have constrain, which is it works pretty much like constraints in 3D space. Most you can kind of play with them, but some of the more useful ones are dimension, which allows you to like put a dimension in here, and I'm like, yep, that goes there. And now that's there, I can unclick that, and then I can like double click and I can edit this, and now it's 0.5 inches instead of 0.376, and see, now it's longer. We also have parallel, which is this one, I think. Yeah, does exactly what you think. It forces two lines to be parallel, and then nothing that you do can make them not parallel. Perpendicular does the same thing, but with perpendicular lines. Concentric just forces two circles to be concentric, even if they're not already. And horizontal and vertical force a line to be either horizontal or vertical. And equal forces two things to be the same. So yeah, that's how it works. Now the insert, this you don't use as much, but still worth going over because it's still a thing. You literally just, like, this will insert an image if you want to trace something maybe, and then move it into your CAD program so you can use it. Points, you can have a bunch of like X, Y, Z locations specified in a spreadsheet, and then you can import them and it'll put points at all those locations in the file, and then you can connect them how you want. And AutoCAD, it imports 2D AutoCAD data, so maybe you're using it from there. That's pretty much it, and you obviously click Finish Sketch to finish the sketch. And then now we have a weird little box here, just because that's what ended up from what I was demonstrating. And that's pretty much the Sketch tab. Also keep in mind, this works like a lot of things. You can just hover over it, and it'll explain to you how it works. All right. Yeah, that's it.